What an amazing week of trading. The NASDAQ and the Russell has gone to bear territory. They're in bear market territory. But Bitcoin's actually still holding at 82K. How much longer can Bitcoin hold? Do you think this is relative strength from the cryptos, from Bitcoin and Ethereum, while stocks are crashing? Or do you think it's just a catch-up play and Bitcoin's going to go down eventually later on? Where will the markets bottom this, like in this local bottom? Not the ultimate bear market bottom or bull market bottom, but in the next few weeks, where will the markets bottom? Right? I'm trying to answer that question today. And there was a secret signal on Ethereum, a signal that no one's paying attention to because everyone's too busy looking at the Trump tariffs and how everything else is crashing. So just to give folks a taste of what it is that I'm looking at. So this was the secret signal that came out on ETH. We're going to be talking about that today. And also, why didn't Bitcoin go down together with one of the biggest crashes in stock market, recent history? That was really impressive. But can this, what folks, people are calling it relative strength, can this relative strength be believed? My opinion is that probably we can't really believe in this relative strength. And I'm going to tell you guys why I think like that as well. Now, before we go on, quickly, let's just answer the question of which crypto exchange does Pablo use? Well, Pablo uses this exchange that is non-KYC. That means they do not ask you for your ID. That means, of course, Americans can use it because the exchange can't even see who you are. So that means the IRS can't see you, the tax office can't see you, the CIA, FBI, nobody can see you. And for my followers, using the Pablo link, the deal I made with them, chance to win this BMW bike and a tour to Dubai, Rolex watches, just by joining and trading. But last day, folks, this offer ends on April the 6th, or this weekend. Okay, if you're watching this video, then just click on the on YouTube. Then the link is in the description below. My link is in the description below. But if you're watching it on some other platform, such as this one, then just click on my profile page and then click on the Stand link. Basically, that's where all my links are. And Bitunix, or my Discord, is basically the first thing that pops up. Remember, folks, only on this Pablo link, because that's the Pablo deal. Okay, let's get back to the markets. Only on the Pablo link. Finishes today. All right, so with Bitcoin, what I would say is this. In the past, we have seen, I think it was about a month ago, when Ethereum was crashing. Basically, Ethereum went down before Bitcoin did, right? And what happened was Bitcoin suddenly then started crashing, like a catch-up play, and yet Ethereum didn't crash. Yet Bitcoin didn't crash. Let me just get this chart right for you guys. Okay, so the example I'm giving to folks is in early Feb on this date. This was like February I think the February the 4th. What had happened was basically Ethereum, starting from 31st of Jan, had already crashed, right? It was already going down. Go away. Had already crashed, right? This is Ethereum. It had already crashed. And then Bitcoin stayed kind of strong, right? At 97K. And then on this day, when Bitcoin made this big crash down from 102 down to 96, like a 6% move in one day, 5-6% move in one day. Ethereum on this day, you noticed, didn't change much, right? It didn't change much. Basically stayed mostly sideways. And there was 1 or 2 days like that back in February. And at the time also, the market thought that Ethereum had relative strength because Bitcoin tanked like 6%. Ethereum kind of moved sideways, where it was only down like 1%. So people thought, okay, that Ethereum had a lot of relative strength. But obviously, when we look at this chart, Ethereum basically then just kept on going down. What I would say is the situation right now is the stock market is in bear market territory for NASDAQ. It's down 20%, and Bitcoin has held up at 82, 83K area. But people interpret that as a short-term show of relative strength. I would say that's not actually that reliable. In a few days or next week or something like that, we could easily see Bitcoin in the 70s. Like 73K is still my target. It hasn't changed. There hasn't been too many instances where if there was a sustained stock market, bear market, or sustained drops in the stock market, that Bitcoin doesn't react. Okay, so then it comes down to the stock market. Where do we think the stock market will bottom? Now, and for folks who've been watching my videos or if you're in my Discord, you already know how often that I've spoken about how important the stock market is to crypto, to Bitcoin and altcoins. Now, the answer is, are we looking for a long-term bottom or are we looking for a short-term bottom? And I will get to talking about the secret, Ethereum signal that most people aren't talking about later in this episode. But right now, let's get to the really important question of where do we think the stock market is going to bottom? Well, the stock market basically, are we looking for a long-term bottom or are we looking for the short-term bottom? Let's have a look, for example, at the NASDAQ during. Okay, let's have a look at the NASDAQ during the .com crash. And you will see that if you're looking for, there are all sorts of short-term bottoms. So for example, even this is 2008, 2009, we had this crash, right? And basically that was already, from 2,900 points to almost 2,900 down to 2,100. That was already bear market because you're down more than 20%. But then you had a big bounce, right? Went sideways and then boom, the really big crash happened. And also, this is the 2000.com bubble, and we again see the market NASDAQ goes down, and we can see that is from 3,000 to 5,000. So that's like a 40% drop already. Oh, I've got it on logarithmic. That's a problem, right? That's already like a 40% drop, and you see the market made a massive bounce. So that will be a 33% bounce from here, and went sideways, right? This whole bounce took like 3 or 4 months before it is all over, and so the long-term bottom didn't come in until like almost 3 years later, 2.5 years later. The short-term bottom came and markets had a 33% bounce. I'll show you guys 2008, 2009 again, just for perspective. Bear market came, and then we had from 2150, say, bounced up to 2550. So that's almost a 20% bounce. That's like an 18% bounce. And this went on for from March to September. So that's like 6 months, like 5-6 month period. It went like looking for these bounces. Never made a new all-time high. So then the big crash came. So, and the big crash lasted from start to finish, 07 October to 09 March, 1.5 years, right? 1.5 years. So basically what I'm trying to say is this time, what could happen is basically, right? Basically, if we stay completely bearish in the short term, we could get a big bounce. Even if this was the top, let's say if this was the top, then there is no blow off top. I'd say if this was already the top and the bear market has started, then what would happen is markets dip down, find its footing, right, in a day or two, sometime next week, and we bounce to like this 18,000 level or 18.6 on the NASDAQ, right, go sideways, bounce, dip down, bounce up, and then, by June, July, September, something like that, a few months later, boom, then the big crash really comes. According to history, that's actually a likely scenario of what could happen, right? If that was the case, we could still, so the bottom may not be in for another year or two if we're talking for long-term investors looking for that ultimate bottom. But if you're looking for short-term traders, a bounce of like 20 to 30% could be huge. That would take Bitcoin to above 100K. Bitcoin could even make a new all-time high, right? So Ethereum could do a bounce to 3,000, 3,500, right? And that's a lot of people can make life-changing dollars in that kind of a bounce, right? So we don't want to miss that. And I would not rule out the probability of a new all-time high on stocks or crypto. Even though everything's looking bearish, it could still happen. So in terms of long-term timing, if the bear market has already started, then it's probably at least 1.5 years from now, the market's bottom. But if we're talking short-term, then we could look at some of these volatility measures. Like right now, for example, if we look at some of these volatility measures, then we can see that this is the equities put and call ratio. The put and call ratio has spiked up, but it's not quite there yet. Like look at some of these bottoms that were put in during this was only happened last year. So last year the only big bottom or scare was in August. So and at other times we had put and call ratios, puts been this high. So right now I don't think we're quite there yet. I think the market is getting bearish, sentiment's getting bearish, but we'll probably need to see something like this, right, or even this for the market to turn around, for the markets to make a short-term bottom. And for example, on the this is a 5-day average, 5-day moving average of the put and call ratio, and we can see that this is a much longer term chart, and we can see it needs to be at least be higher than these two red lines, and maybe get close to this 1.00 level. This is where 2009 crash bottomed, right? 2011, 2012, 2016 crash, 2019, the 2020 March COVID crash, and then the big the fear at the end of the small bear market in 2022, right? And and this was August last year when the US dollar Japanese yen trade flashed, ended. So we could probably have stocks make a short-term bottom and a massive bounce next week. But however, that probably we probably need to put a little bit more fear and a little bit more drop into the market first for folks who are short-term traders looking to buy the dip. For long-term traders, well, you know what I think. Okay, now let's have a look at the Ethereum signal that I was talking about. For Ethereum, basically, this is the price of Ethereum, right? We can all recognize the chart, this blue, purplish chart. These red ones, right, are the 30-day moving average of taker-seller volume. Taker-seller volume. So what does that mean? Basically, it means, as I explained in my yesterday's video, when people are selling, right, they're just taking the bid prices, right? Like, say they want to sell Ethereum at $1,700, and right now the price is $1,705, right? They're not, sorry. Say right now the price of Ethereum is at $1,700. They're not waiting to list their sell price at $1,705 and see if Ethereum will bounce $5 and hit their sell order. They're just taking the lower bid. The bid is at $1,700 and they're just taking that and selling. That means when someone's hitting the sell bidder, the sell order, the taker price, it means they're selling in a hurry. And look at this. This was massive selling when ETH was at 4,100 3-4 months ago. When I saw that, I did issue a number of warnings. I wish I took it even more seriously myself. Now, if you watch my videos, if you're in my Discord, this was the time when I said, look, a lot of ETH insiders and whales are selling Ethereum. We need to take this seriously. That's going to defensive mode, at least 50% defensive mode, right? And that means basically we need to sell on bounces, buy the dips and sell on bounces. And I wish I took my own advice more seriously and said that's going to 100% or 90% defensive mode rather than just 50% plus, at least 50% defensive mode. So the good thing is, as prices drop, look at this, as prices drop, right, in for Ethereum, as it's been going down, we see that the taker sell volume has ebbed and flowed, and basically almost coming. This is a 30-day moving average, by the way, almost coming back to neutral again. When it turns green and positive, that means there's taker buy volume. That means there's whales rushing in to buy Ethereum, not even waiting for the prices to pull back. They're just taking the offer price. Right now, we're not quite there yet, but we're getting close. We're like really, like, look at this. Last time when this metric was up here, Ethereum was around this low 2000s area and it bottomed by bouncing around here. And then we had that big move up to 4100, right? So that's at least one of the signals we could watch out for, because what could happen is when the bounce comes in the equity markets, could be as early as sometime next week. When the bounce comes in equity markets and you have Ethereum whales dumping and panic selling have stopped or almost stopped, or it could even turn green, then with the bounce in the stock market, we'll see if we get a 20-30% bounce with an outside chance of even a new all-time high. That's still possible. I don't want to rule it out just yet. Then the bounce on Ethereum could be quite big. I understand that Ethereum has been quite disappointing so far. It's been performing like a dog. But like we just saw, everything has a cycle. Everyone was screaming the NASDAQ was invincible, the Magnificent Seven was invincible. I was the only one saying it's overvalued. DeepSeek's going to come out from China and it's going to crater the NASDAQ. And I told all the family men in my Discord, posted this on Twitter as well, in my videos, saying dollar cost average out. That's get out of the NASDAQ. Get into the Chinese stocks. Everyone was hating it. Everyone said, yep, I'll never touch any Chinese stocks. It was down at the bottom and then it went up. You basically just have to be bullish when everyone's extremely bearish, and you have to be bearish when people are starting to get really euphoric bullish. Okay, for all the Aussies out there, Pablo uses SwiftX exchange, and the link is in the description below. For everyone else, thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.